오지 마세요, 진짜. 저희 집 주차장에 이제 잘못 발 들이면은 못 나가요. 제가 열어주지 않는 한 못 나가요. 갇혀요. 그리고 CCTV 다 있고 다 보고 있고, 경찰서로 가시고 싶지 않으시면 들어오지 마세요. 여기서 CCTV를 보고 있었는데 이제 경찰분 오셔서 제가 그거를 계속 다 상황을 보고 있었거든요. 소리가 나니까 탁탁탁 와가지고 문을 열려고 하는 거야. 열었는데 눈앞에 경찰이 이제 있었던 거지. 다 지켜보고 있었는데 오면은 그냥 내가 가둬버릴 거예요. 그냥 가는 거야, 그냥. 끌려가는 거야. 증거랑 이런 것도 다 확보했고 기록 다 되니까.
When news broke online that someone had allegedly tried once again to reveal Jungkook's house, the story spread with the speed that only BTS-related content seems capable of. Hashtags filled Twitter, posts climbed on Korean forums, and international media picked it up within hours. The issue is not only about a celebrity's personal space. It is about the fine line between global fascination and dangerous obsession. For Jungkook, who has faced versions of this before, the recurrence adds layers of frustration, vulnerability, and a spotlight on the culture of celebrity intrusion in the digital era. The timing of this latest viral moment is telling. Jungkook has been a magnet of attention in 2025. This constant spotlight creates fertile ground for stories both legitimate and fabricated. A rumor, a leaked photo, or a post claiming to know where he lives becomes amplified by algorithms that thrive on engagement. The result is a perfect storm. A minor online whisper becomes a trending headline within hours. That is exactly what seems to have happened with this supposed attempt to reveal Jungkook's residence again. What makes this case different from other celebrity privacy breaches is the repetition. Jungkook has faced several attempts over the years to expose where he lives. Each time, fans mobilize to condemn the invasion. Agencies release statements, and for a while, the issue fades. But it never disappears permanently. For Jungkook himself, the emotional burden must be heavy. Imagine crafting your life around stages, cameras, and the creative pursuit of music, only to return home a place meant to be sanctuary, knowing that some people online treat it as public property. Even if he never speaks directly about the latest incident, his history with privacy suggests a constant undercurrent of unease. It is not just about physical safety, but about the mental exhaustion of knowing boundaries can be crossed again at any time. One of the striking dynamics in every Jungkook privacy controversy is the sharp division between fans and intruders. BTS's fanbase, ARMY, has consistently proven to be protective of the members. When news of an alleged attempt to reveal his house spread, thousands of posts immediately appeared, condemning the act, urging others not to share unverified information, and even mass reporting accounts. This protective response shows how the relationship between Jungkook and ARMY extends beyond performance. Fans see themselves as guardians of his right to a private life, even if their support sometimes blurs into the same intensity that fuels invasions. It is a paradox. The scale of his popularity creates both his greatest shield and his greatest vulnerability. The intruders, on the other hand, represent a different culture within fandom. They might not even be direct fans. Sometimes these individuals are content creators seeking clicks, gossip forums seeking traffic, or opportunists who know that Jungkook's name guarantees visibility. The attempt to expose his house, then, is not only about curiosity, but also about profit and power in the attention economy. Zooming out, Jungkook's case illustrates the broader challenge faced by global celebrities in 2025. The rise of digital platforms means that personal information, addresses, family details, travel schedules has become a currency. There is demand for such information, and where there is demand, there are people willing to supply it, regardless of legality or morality. For Korean celebrities, The issue is particularly sharp. The culture of idol fandom is built on intimacy. Fans want to feel close, to know details, to track schedules. While most fans respect boundaries, the extreme minority can weaponize this closeness into intrusion. Jungkook, as one of the most famous figures in K-pop, becomes a prime target. Every attempt to expose his house becomes not just about him, but about how the entire system struggles to balance intimacy with respect. Historically, HYBE, the company managing BTS, has issued strong statements condemning privacy violations. They have taken legal action in cases of stalking, harassment, and defamation. In this latest controversy, though, something interesting is happening. Fans are noticing the company's silence. As of now, no official statement has been released. This silence creates speculation. Some argue that HYBE is gathering evidence before responding. Others suggest that the agency is strategically ignoring the story to prevent further amplification. But silence is also risky. It can make fans feel that their protective mobilization is unsupported. For Jungkook, the lack of an official response could also mean more weight on his shoulders. Without a company statement, he becomes the silent subject of online debate without institutional backing. Jungkook's career shows that he has often had to negotiate boundaries with fans and the public. From the early days of BTS, he was known as the Golden Maknae, the youngest member with extraordinary skills. That label came with admiration, but also scrutiny. Fans watched him grow from a teenager into a global superstar, and along the way, his personal space often became a battleground. There have been reports of sasaengs, obsessive fans, following him at airports, tracking his personal life, and even attempting to reach his residence. Each incident has reinforced the fragile nature of privacy for idols. What makes the current viral case sting more is that Jungkook has already endured this multiple times. The repetition makes it feel less like isolated incidents and more like a chronic condition of fame. While much of the discussion remains analytical, it is impossible to ignore the emotional weight. For many fans, the idea that someone tried again to expose Jungkook's home is heartbreaking. Home is supposed to be a place of safety, comfort, and separation from the public. To imagine him robbed of that basic comfort adds a layer of sadness to the story. Jungkook himself is known for valuing personal space. In interviews, he has occasionally spoken about enjoying quiet time, gaming, or working on music alone. These glimpses suggest a person who recharges in solitude. When that solitude is threatened, it is not just a logistical problem, but an emotional violation. Ultimately, the renewed controversy is not only about Jungkook, but about the structure of fame itself. His house becoming a target is symbolic of how global celebrity operates in 2025. Fame today is less about distance and more about accessibility. Social media collapses boundaries. Fans can comment on posts seconds after they are uploaded. Brands rely on intimacy fashion campaigns, highlight personal sides of idols. In this landscape, the private becomes public almost inevitably. Jungkook's repeated experiences show how fragile that boundary is and how costly it can be to maintain even the simplest aspects of normal life. One reason this particular controversy feels so relentless is that media outlets rarely let it fade. Once the story begins trending, coverage fragments into endless angles. Fans react to privacy violation, focusing on ARMY's protective mobilization. HYBE yet to respond, framing silence as its own news item. The dark side of fandom, using Jungkook's case as an example of sasaeng behavior. What this says about celebrity culture. Moving from specific to abstract cultural analysis. Each new headline breathes additional life into the original story. The result is that even after the alleged attempt to expose his home has passed, the narrative lingers in the digital space far longer than the actual event. For Jungkook, it means that the intrusion is not momentary, it is stretched, amplified, and sometimes distorted beyond recognition. HYBE is not just an entertainment company. It is a global corporation managing artists, brands, and multi-million-dollar deals. Every statement they release is strategic. If they acknowledge the incident too quickly, they risk amplifying it, giving oxygen to rumors, and encouraging further attempts. If they wait too long, they risk appearing negligent. Silence, therefore, can be interpreted as a calculated act, a way of starving the story of official validation while simultaneously buying time to assess the legal landscape. Still, for fans, the silence feels like abandonment. ARMY, who often position themselves as Jungkook's defenders, expect HYBE to act decisively. Their frustration is not only about protecting Jungkook, but also about feeling part of a larger system of guardianship. When HYBE stays quiet, that system feels fractured, leaving fans with the impression that the responsibility of defense has shifted disproportionately onto them. The attempt to expose Jungkook's residence also highlights a double standard in how society treats global celebrities compared to ordinary individuals. In most countries, exposing someone's home address would be considered a serious violation of privacy, potentially even a criminal act. But when the person in question is a world-famous singer, some people rationalize the intrusion as inevitable or even justified by his status. This double standard is dangerous because it normalizes behaviors that, in any other context, would be unacceptable. It reinforces the idea that fame erases the right to privacy. For Jungkook, it means that his personal boundaries are constantly negotiated, not only by his company, but also by a public that feels entitled to fragments of his life. Jungkook's struggle is not unique. Global celebrity culture has countless examples of artists facing invasive behaviors. Taylor Swift has spoken openly about stalkers appearing at her homes, leading to multiple restraining orders. Justin Bieber, in his teenage years, experienced aggressive invasions of privacy, with fans gathering outside his residence and paparazzi following him everywhere. Japanese idols face similar issues, with stories of obsessive fans waiting at train stations or tracking idols' personal lives through digital breadcrumbs. By comparing Jungkook's case with these, it becomes clear that this is not a problem confined to K-pop, but a global dilemma. What makes his situation distinct is the scale of BTS's fandom and the cultural intensity of K-pop, which magnifies both the love and the intrusion. Another layer to this controversy is economics. In today's digital environment, exposure translates directly into money. Websites, YouTube channels, and gossip accounts know that anything linked to Jungkook will generate massive traffic. Even speculation about his private life, whether real or fabricated, drives clicks. This monetization creates a vicious cycle. The more attention a rumor gets, the more incentive others have to create similar content. In Jungkook's case, the attempt to expose his house is not only about curiosity, but also about revenue streams that profit from his vulnerability. Fans are often aware of this dynamic, which explains their aggressive strategies of reporting, blocking, and drowning out invasive content. They understand that by refusing to engage, they can cut off the economic incentive. Yet the system is difficult to dismantle entirely because demand remains high. Interestingly, Jungkook himself has remained silent about the latest attempt to expose his house. This silence can be read in multiple ways. On one hand, it could suggest emotional fatigue. He has dealt with this before and prefers not to give it more attention. On the other hand, silence can be a form of resistance. By refusing to acknowledge the invasion, he denies it legitimacy. For fans, however, this silence is complicated. They worry about how he feels behind closed doors. They imagine the frustration or sadness he might experience. In this way, silence becomes a double-edged sword. It protects Jungkook's agency, but leaves others projecting their own interpretations onto him. Beyond the surface-level news cycle, one must consider the psychological toll on Jungkook. Living with the awareness that strangers are attempting to invade your private space creates chronic stress. Even if no one physically approaches his house, the knowledge that such attempts exist can erode feelings of safety. This can affect creativity, focus, and even relationships. An artist who feels unsafe in his own home may find it harder to separate personal life from professional obligations. The irony is sharp. The very place meant to shield him from public scrutiny becomes another site of exposure. One of the more remarkable aspects of this controversy is the proactive role fans play in shaping public perception. ARMY are not passive consumers of Jungkook's image, they actively curate and defend it. When attempts are made to expose his house, fans mobilize across languages, countries, and platforms. They warn others not to spread content, they report invasive posts, and they flood timelines with positive narratives to redirect attention. This digital activism has become one of the defining features of K-pop fandoms. It shows how the relationship between artist and fan is no longer one-directional. Fans are not only audience members, they are participants in protecting the artist's dignity. In Jungkook's case, this protective behavior becomes especially powerful, as his global popularity means threats to his privacy emerge from multiple regions and cultures.